They're all green. Oh, Bob's not here.
Hey, Fred. Good, how are you?
Oh, ready?
It was great.
We'll wait till
It's great.
Fred gets ready and then we'll
This like
start.
a caution. Because there was some COVID on the phone. So folks got
Live
it while
mic.
we were away, so I've been wearing it. Today's my last day to wear it.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. We'll wait for you to get ready.
I like it soup.
So you missed the Board of Health and Shelter? Did you miss being there?
No, I was there. Oh, you mean in the job?
On the,
They said they missed
If you
me.
want me,
So
yeah.
that's a good sign, I guess. Yeah, I did.
It's up to you.
I was anxious to get back
I
there.
think we should.
I
I think we should.
Yeah. I had to reach out to you about it.
That way there's no repercussions.
It is what it is. I can overcome it. Maybe just a moment, but I think I got it now. I'm getting there. There's a lot of rocks to kick first to figure out what's going on.
First like when it's looking at us.
Oh,
I'm just waiting for you.
you ready? I didn't know that.
Whenever you guys are ready, I didn't know if Mr. Stack was ready.
I'm ready.
You need 1 second?
Please.
Do you need a heads up, Kurt? Because we're gonna get going in a minute. Okay.
You ready?
Selectman Willoughby asked for a second.
Thank you.
Are you all set?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3,
Let's do it.
public comment. Anyone for public comment? Public comment going 3 times. No public comment. Approval of minutes from the August 1st, 2023 regular meeting.
We got public comment.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't know if this is gonna be.
It's up.
Just remember, it doesn't reverb, so you won't hear yourself talking back.
For the record, my name is Teresa Conrad, 177 Schofield Street in Seymour. Good evening. I haven't been here in a while, but I had a few questions from people that have been approaching me. When we passed the budget, there was a special projects person in there, and I know you can't answer anything, but just keep it in your mind. People are wondering what kind of special projects this person is going to be doing, and when can we hear some information about it? I know it hasn't been posted yet, so if you get any information, we're all looking forward to it. Thank you.
No problem. Is there any other public comment? No further public comment? Approval of the minutes from the August 1st, 2023 regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Pat Lombardi. Second. Second by Phil Willoughby. Discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries
Abstain.
6-0. Al Bruno abstains.
Miss First, Look, I'd like to ask to
Wait a minute,
amend
let me,
the...
let me just finish this one.
Oh.
501.
My apologies.
Please note Selectman Bruno's abstention.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda, item number 5, to include discussion. Either prior to the report or directly after. Please.
Motion by Phil Willoughby, have a second?
If I may, what type of discussion are you asking for? The agenda item is report.
I would like to have a discussion regarding the events leading up to and the how certain things were handled for the chief administrative office position and town business. That's the discussion I would like to.
So you,
That's not an addition to that, though. This is the CAO who's giving a report tonight.
I understand that.
so you want,
I want to talk.
okay, so you want to make.
You want to
Add
add
to the
item to
agenda.
the agenda.
Yeah, if that's more appropriate, I apologize if well,
That is correct. You would be adding it to the agenda. The chief administrative officer is giving a report.
okay.
So you would like to add to the agenda,
After item 5, a discussion about some situations that affect directly with the chief administrative officer position, Facebook reports, and town business being conducted, not in this board, on this format. Basically, that's what I want to talk about.
okay. Let me see how we can word it. Well, because we don't have a motion yet.
We don't have a motion.
And if I may, Madam First Selectwoman, I heard what Selectman Willoughby said, but I don't know what the item is that you're adding to the agenda for a motion.
So
You need to articulate, it has something to do with the chief administrative officer, but you need to articulate exactly what, I say exactly, within reason, what it is you want to add to the agenda. Because there are several things here. One, if I may, we have FOI concerns. And you have to be able to say what it is that's being added to the agenda. Two, if it's about an employee and performance or something like that, then the employee has certain rights, and the employee would have the right to have that matter heard in executive session unless he or she waives it. In this case, it's a he, waives it. So that's why I'm not sure what, I'm just trying to protect everybody
I
here.
understand, and I expected this, and I'm grateful for it. I'm
Yeah,
grateful for it.
just whatever, maybe somebody could help
So if
articulate what the motion is.
I think
to add.
I know what the motion is, and correct me if I'm wrong. You would like to add to the agenda discussion on how the CAO was hired.
And town business, my perception of town business being performed on Facebook and not on this format of the Board of Selectmen. Regarding
All right,
the chief
So that-
administrative office.
I'm trying to help you with the motion.
I know you are.
Okay. So you would like to add to the agenda the motion to discuss on the process and how the CAO was hired and how it was not conducted, well, through the
Here.
Board of Selectmen?
Versus posting on Facebook, yes.
I don't know if,
I'm not looking to make a motion to discuss anything about employment, employees, or anything like that. Procedures that went through, and
Is it simply how the CAO was hired you're looking
basically,
for?
yeah.
I'm directly involved, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, the motion you want to make, because I can't make that motion, you have to make this motion, okay? So the motion you want to make is you would like to add to the agenda on how the CAO, the hiring of the CAO process took place and discussion.
Correct. Exactly what I said, and thank you for reiterating it. That's my motion.
Yeah,
Now I gotta beg for a second.
you don't have to beg for a second, but you kind of have to say the motion.
Okay, move to add to the agenda, discussion regarding the,
Hiring process.
hiring process of the chief administrative officer and,
That's it,
business,
that's it.
that's it, okay, that's all.
And discussion.
And discussion.
There you go.
Okay.
Can he have a second, please?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion by Phil, second by Fred. Discussion. All in favor?
Abstain.
Pat Lombardi abstains.
I'm still confused.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still confused, I'm sorry.
Okay,
It's all right.
It's okay.
I'll try to make it
Bruno?
as clear as I can.
you're saying no? Chair votes aye. So,
We're going to do this after number 5, though, is that what you
Yes.
said?
Right after number 5.
You just voted, through the chair, you just voted add it to the agenda now.
yep,
Oh, okay.
So the
we'll do
chair-
it now, okay. Got it.
Okay.
Highly
Let's
confused.
call the vote.
Roles
So
reversed.
you get it for the clerk.
yep.
How many in favor and then how many opposed?
How many in favor? Oppose? Abstain? You get that?
Madam Clerk.
I'm good.
Okay. Everybody set? After number 5.
Thank you.
No, we didn't say in number 5, so we'll just, I think,
He said after
now.
number 5.
After number 5.
Was that in the motion?
Yes.
Yes, that
That's
was
what,
it.
that's what Phil said.
That was after the motion. So number 5, Chief Administrative Officer's report.
Thank you very much, Madam First Selectwoman. So I spent the first 2 weeks just kind of reacquainting myself with the staff and trying to get an understanding of where things are. A lot of things have changed in the last 2.5 years or so, so I wanted to get as much information as I possibly could. I plan to do a report, a more thorough report with each board selectment meeting, just kind of give you an idea of some of the day-to-day operations and some of the things that we're doing. But a few things that were of interest to this board. One particularly was the Finance Department policies and procedures. I've been working with Doug Thomas and Jason, the intern, going through those. Doug is away this week, so we will not have that, but we'll have a thorough report for the September 5th meeting. Doug and Jay will both be here to present that in detail. Spent a good deal of time with the operations team going over all of the projects, just to get an understanding where each project stands, what's outstanding, and more importantly, the financing behind each of the projects, so we have a very good understanding. That dovetails right into the ARPA funds. Spent a good deal of time with Tony Bucerta going through the ARPA funds, the reporting, essentially preparing ourselves for the upcoming audits. We made a few small changes to that, but that all ties together. So that will all as well be a part of an overall operations report that you'll see on the 5th. For your agenda tonight, you should see some pages when you all sat down. We'll be applying for a steep grant, and we do need to have that added to the agenda. So what I would ask that after Selectman Willoughby's addition, you put that on, and that is to allow us to apply for an additional $500,000 steep grant to be used at the community center. And again, you see the documentation for resolution and so on in front of you. So again, with that, the report is very short, but again, it'll be a little bit more full, I guess for lack of a better term, at your next meeting on September 5th. So with that, for you, Madam First Selectwoman, I'll take any questions that anyone has on my report.
Is any
If I may,
select person standing?
we've had discussion, Mr. Miller, about the finance department, and I thought that was going to be on the agenda this evening with regard to procedures.
Yeah, well, as I said, the finance director was on vacation this week, so he will be back next Tuesday. So we'll have it scheduled for the first meeting in September.
Okay, thank you.
We don't want to go over processes and he's not here to talk
I
about
understand.
them.
And you're going to have that same meeting and accounting of the ARPA funds and how you're reconciling everything?
Correct.
Any updates? Okay.
We're putting together a new format that I think is a little bit easier to read. The other one was kind of long and colorful. This one is actually broken down into specific projects and where each one stands with some. Just
Okay.
easier for a.
Will
just a
there be
quick-
detailed on any adjustments that you had to make for the upcoming audit?
The audit is setting up the packets themselves, because at some point Department of Treasury is going to come in and audit all of this. And from doing the previous audits for ARPA, there's a certain format that they look for. And we want to have a file for each product that contains all the purchase orders, all the checks, anything, communications that goes along with it, any votes. So that way, if Treasury comes in and says, I want to know about the air conditioning for Town Hall, we can simply hand them that file. Everything with regards to that project is there.
Okay.
So we're putting all those
But we'll have a
together.
breakdown by each. Okay, thank you.
Great.
Kurt, will you be giving an ARPA breakdown every month as well?
As needed. I don't know if necessarily every month is needed, but I think if we have a project particular that you'll be voting on, which I foresee in the next couple months, there'll be projects placed in front of you. At that point, I'll give a full report. But if it's just working on existing projects, it might just be something quick in writing that I would just put in your packets, just to keep all of you aware of what's going on.
Do all of, I'm sorry, to that point though, shouldn't all of the ARPA funds have been spent? When is, I thought everything had to be earmarked and spent.
No, you still have time, but, well, there's two deadlines. There's a deadline to earmark it and then a deadline to spend it.
Okay,
But what we're starting to see is there's some indications that Treasury's starting to claw some of this money back if they feel towns are sitting on it or not using it, because again, with the current interest rate environment, some of these towns have received millions of dollars, so they're letting the ARPA funds sit there, and depending, $1 million could get you $40,000 to $50,000 in revenue. So Treasury doesn't want that; they want to see the money put into play for what it was intended for.
okay.
Seymour has about $1 million right now undesignated.
We should, and when do we need to meet and figure, how do we need to go through a process to make sure that we earmark, because there's plenty of work that this town
Right.
needs. That's not wasteful.
Well, I think the town was being properly conservative with the way they spent the money, attacking the biggest problems first and
Right.
working through those
I agree,
projects.
but I don't want to lose the funds either,
Well, no,
because there
it's-
is so much to do.
It's not near that close, where they're going to start in the next,
Okay.
2 months. But, you have 1 or 2 projects that I think have come in a little bit more expensive than anticipated, just because of the size and scope of those projects. So I think it's very smart to hold some ARPA funds back for that, so then you can address those things. But as we're getting more clarity on those projects, they'll release up more funds to the others. So,
Okay.
Good. So, question.
If I may, Mr.
Okay.
Miller, do we need to have some type of estimated cost for a project that we might want to designate funds for, in terms of having had a contractor or an architect look at the project ahead of time, or purchase of a vehicle, for example? Do we need some estimate before we make that determination here to appropriate the money?
Generally, we would get some type of idea, or when the project was presented, there will be some information to back up whatever the cost was that was projected. Obviously, certain things are on the state bid list. If they're
Okay.
purchased off the state bid list, then they are what they are. We still have to follow all the same bidding requirements and everything else that is laid out in the charter. But in some of these instances, this is just for planning purposes, earmarking money for certain projects, and then once the project itself is approved, then we may say, again, air conditioning for Town Hall, we know it's gonna cost $8,000. That was the rough estimate, so that's the number that we would start, but then at that point, we would go out to bid. And whatever the estimates are that came back, and whoever the winning bidder was, that's the amount that actually be put into the spreadsheet.
Understood. Thank you.
Mr. Miller, how often do you think you'll be giving reports like this to the board?
I would foresee everything.
Okay, thank
I
you.
think the first select one would like you to present more of what's going on, keep you guys in the loop. So, not that that's not happening, but
Right.
just a little bit more from the staff perspective.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay. On to item, we'll call it 5A. How's that? Mr. Willoughby, Selectman Willoughby, since this is,
Okay,
no, I didn't want to finish my statement. That's okay.
oh, I thought you said, go ahead, I apologize.
I'm teasing with you. Go ahead. You wanted to add
He's
this.
so nervous. I'd like to discuss the process in which we hired the chief administrative officer. And then, I'm gonna go back, then forward and back again, and then a post on Facebook. So, after the resignation of Mr. Burke, on our July 18th meeting, I had asked under select person's public comment, which I probably should have added it to the agenda that night, the status of the chief administrative officer's position. The response was something to the effect that the contract was still in draft form, basic draft form, and that the candidates that were being considered had some current
I'll tell you exactly what I said.
current employment obligation that had to be worked out.
I said there was 2 employees, the contract's in draft form, there's 2 employees, we can't say who it is at that time because we weren't in executive session and we couldn't list their names,
Correct.
right? And they have previous employers. They were both employed. That is what I said.
Okay, that's correct. And that was about 8:30 PM on Tuesday, the 18th. Contract was signed 48 hours later,
On Friday, yep,
right?
22nd.
So we had a lot of work going on the 19th and the 20th. We got everything done, we got the contract done, and we got it signed on the 21st, right? A couple days later,
Was that a Friday?
yeah. Subsequent meeting was August 1st, and nothing was mentioned on this meeting, on your board, your executive team, nothing was mentioned about the position. Nothing. Zero. We had no input, we had no discussion, wasn't on the agenda. It was a black hole. That was the meeting of August 1st. August 2nd, there's a Facebook post. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I feel that we're your team. Basically, the information was learned on Facebook. It shouldn't have been done that way. I believe it should not. I think town business should be done here, this format, with your executive team. That's one feeling. I also am speaking tonight because in the Facebook, my name personally is mentioned. I understand everybody else's too. The word transparency keeps coming up. My phone keeps ringing. People keep asking me questions. I'm not in 100% in the know. I think that if we make sure town business is done on this format, and there will be no chance for people to interject or make an opinion or change or not be sure and stuff like that. The Facebook ad, the Facebook post was misleading.
I don't have Facebook. What did the Facebook post say?
I
I'm
can
sorry.
read it to you entirely, but I'm gonna backtrack. In the Facebook post, we talk about, and congratulations, Mr. Miller. I'm gonna just say, for the record, congratulations on.
Thank you, Selectman Will.
We requested to see the contract, job description. I know Mr. Pelosi was on vacation. I still didn't get that, but I got the Facebook page sent to me by 6,000 people. The Facebook announcement doesn't have full truth. In my perspective, it's not clear. It's not fully transparent. The Facebook page says, over the last 3 months, Chris had led an interview panel created by the Board of Select Persons that included himself, current First Selectman Phil Willoughby, former CAO Rory Burke, and the current CAO of the town of Stratford, Chris Tominiak.
Wait a minute, read that again. The Board of Selectmen, repeat that again? Sorry.
Over the last 3 months, Chris has led an interview panel created by the Board of Select Persons
Yes.
that included himself, current selectman, me, former CAO Rory Burke, and current CAO of the town of Stratford, Chris Timniak.
Yes.
I hope I don't.
Nope, that's right.
So that sentence leads you to believe that was the task, that was the panel, and that wasn't the original panel. The original panel, you had asked minority representation, myself, majority representation, Mr. Bruno, to be on it. Now, I understand Mr. Bruno had an engagement, and, you know, life happens to everybody. I understand that. But of something of this importance, with the majority representation on the panel that you have asked us to do, and I was more than grateful to do the work. I wanted to do the work. I believe that we should have postponed the interview if it's that important. Because the way it looks is, on the Facebook page, that Chris, the CAO of the town of Stratford, was there from the beginning, and he wasn't. We scrambled at the last second, I do believe, to get Chris to come because of the late timing of the personal situation for Mr. Bruno. Now, that's one point. The committee unanimously moved 2 candidates forward based on their backgrounds, strong municipal experience, and that's not true. That's not what the panel was to do. The panel did an interview process only, because all the considerations of background, employment history, education, experience, and the sort was done through our human resource person, Mr. Pelosi, who does a great job. Otherwise, the way this is written, the panel should have been involved with the first 18 people that came along, because the human resource director whittled down 18 to 4. Right?
I'm just going to interject. You really would have wanted to do all that work, because even as a manager, if I need to hire someone, human resources is getting the applications and the resumes,
Yeah.
and they're whittling it down to the people that are really qualified, and then putting those people in front of me, and those are the people I'm interviewing.
So when you interview,
I would
are you
think
the
it would be same
qualified
here.
person to say, these are the right qualifications, this is the right education, I background checked, I did all that? No, that's the job of the human resources. All we're doing is seeing how the persons do in an
Right,
interview, and
whoever
then give
human
it to...
resources puts forth to you,
Right.
then whoever's doing the interviewing decides of these people that are being put
How
forth
they
to
did
me,
in the interview.
this is who I think are qualified to put forth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, right, because, as an example, I didn't look at the resume and say, I'm going to call UConn and see if he does have a degree from UConn. That's the job of the human resource, right? So background check, education experience is not the part of the panel at all,
Right.
not even close. So my point is, because we didn't do the business of the town here in this format, and it came out in Facebook, that's what I have a problem with.
Wait,
Because
what do you mean we didn't do it here?
there was it was never on the agenda from interview to the signing of the contract. It was never discussed on this board.
It was like,
We
oh
have
my
this-
gosh, sometime in June though, there's a motion. Now I know on the record, I do remember both Fred and you voted no, but there was a motion to allow the first select person to enter into a negotiation with the candidate, which at that time we could not
The-
discuss
the-
any
the-
names because.
The two people that the panel presented to
The 2 finalists.
the select board.
Yeah, so we
That's
have
true.
that motion,
That's true.
And you and Fred voted no.
and both of you voted no, but
That's
there was a
correct.
majority who voted
Correct.
yes to go ahead and allow.
So, wait a minute, so
Go ahead.
let's go back to that.
That's why I was saying before, we've switched roles, because I'm confused when you were adding to the agenda, because I wasn't.
Well, I was
quite-
gonna let him finish, but,
Yeah.
okay. So we have Chris Pelosi here, who's our HR director. So you can also ask him any questions as well, because he was on the panel with you,
Yes.
right? Okay. So you were on that panel, Al's name was not mentioned because he did not take part in any of it. That's why.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
that's why I did not, any of it. He didn't do the interviews, that's why I didn't put his name in it.
Correct.
Because he was not involved in any of it. So I want to clarify that as you're saying stuff, I'm writing it down so I can address it with you.
Try not to beat me up too much. I'm just trying to do my,
Have I ever?
no.
Wait
I'm
a
not
minute.
doing this to be critical. I'm doing this in good conscience.
No, I know.
Okay.
So hold on a minute. You said Chris Timniak was brought in at the last minute.
Is that true?
Is that, okay.
Know what?
So, I think I can help attempt to clarify.
Okay, the point of that though, is, I'm not at the time to make that point and clarify that one thing. There's more I want. The big picture.
Okay.
The big picture is the business went out on Facebook and not in the town meeting, and then it seems that the official word of the first select woman of Seymour made the announcement via Facebook, and I think that was wrong. Because of all this discussion of transparency, and if it's left on my answer machine one more time, I'm gonna go crazy. I don't mind doing the work, but I don't want to be misunderstood in any way.
So am I.
Okay, I'd like to personally thank Chris and all the members of the panel for their hard work and dedication in diligently filling this key position for the town of Seymour, as well as negotiating the contract, That's not true.
So Chris,
It must be said, and it was blatantly clear when I accepted the responsibility for the panel, and I tried to do the best job for you I could, and I hope I did, that the way we are set up is that the recommendations from this panel, that's how we're working, are going to the first select person. The first select person has sole charge of making the decision. The sole charge of making the decision. And in June, we voted that you would go into contract negotiation. You could have denied the choices that was presented to you. You could have amended them and asked for more. You could have picked anybody else. You had sole discretion on this and the contract, not the panel.
I think that's fair, but I think it's a benefit to the panel that was put together that you did put forth candidates that were said to be qualified.
No, we put forth candidates that did well in the interview process. All other considerations come from the Human Resources Department, the chairman of Human Resources.
So
I have a question.
I'm honestly hearing, I don't know, because I'm
Well,
getting
let's talk.
I'm getting a little confused now, because I know what we talked about here. The panel was charged with helping to review people and put them forth for consideration for the position. The panel had discretion as well to say, I don't like any of these candidates and I don't want anybody, so we're not putting forth anybody to the first select person yet. Let's put it back out to more people.
Which we
That didn't
discussed,
happen
because I made
either.
that comment.
That didn't, oh, I don't recall that, but okay.
No, I did. I said
So-
you don't have
but
to
that
pick
didn't
anybody,
happen either.
potentially.
So what I was gonna say is I think it is a benefit to, well, not a benefit, but I think it's a nice accolade to the panel that the people that were put forth were truly considered. And because there was more than one, the first select person did make a decision from the people the panel put forth. I would be insulted if I was on the panel and I agreed to put forth 1, 2, 3 people and not one person was selected, because that means, oh, well, what did we do wrong? I just wasted all my time because you didn't get,
I
So
think
do you
that, I
understand what I'm
think that
saying? So-
the situation is this, the first select person can draw from any resource he or she wants in this process. If they decide to pull, the panel's opinion,
that's why the
That-
panel's put together.
no, the panel was.
Well, then we shouldn't have a panel or say anymore Phil.
Well,
That's my opinion.
that's not the, well.
No, that is,
but-
because
but the-
if you're saying, I'm gonna hold, I don't care who's sitting in the seat, let's take that out. The first select person, male, female, whoever's sitting there, even if it's me, if I'm gonna get attacked for hiring someone, or feel, or not attacked, but if I'm gonna start getting questioned because, well, you could have, you should have, well, then what'd you put two people in front of me for? Oh, I don't need to listen to you, then why put together a panel? Then don't have a say anymore. Don't be included in that stuff.
That's not the,
Don't do that. Like,
that's the,
then we're silent.
that's the backwards point of view that I'm trying to make. The point is that the first select person had sole discretion. That's their decision.
All the time, absolutely.
Right, okay? Whether she pulls consideration from that panel or her human resource director or wherever, that's her business, okay? The panel did what the panel was asked to do, period. With
So here's my
integrity
question,
and-
do you think a panel should be put together in the future?
So, I think that if the
Because
first
that was made
is
clear
using
as
it
part
as
of
a
the hiring
resource,
process.
Hold on. You two going back and forth
right,
is not getting anything done. Hold on. Let Phil say what he has to say.
Okay.
Then, I feel like we're in a courtroom. Let Phil say what he has to say. Then, if anybody has any questions or comments to what he's saying, write it down, and then when he's done making his point, then we can discuss the issues.
okay.
Right?
I'm gonna wrap it up right now. I've had discussion with members of this board where the statement was made, don't you want what's best for Seymour? And let's take the obvious answer. Of course I do. Let's do a follow-up question. The follow-up question that we're sitting in these seats for is, what does Seymour want? Not, we're going to decide what is best for you and then give it to you. I mean, there's a parallel there. There's balance, and I understand that, okay? I don't want to get into this all night long, but there's a balance there, right? The second thing is the word transparency. It keeps coming up. I can't go to the grocery store without getting into conversations. And some of the sources of the conversations are at the exact detail and verbatim what's said from this board is gospel and end of story, not a Facebook post. Because then the interjection comes in, hey, I know it's trivial, but it's important to me. If my wife read this or my neighbor reads this, there's other avenues, and I did the work. I did the work that was asked of me, and it's not projected the way I think it should have been. And I disheartened that on Tuesday, on August 1st meeting, not a word was said, and then a Facebook comes out on Wednesday. I'm being critical. I'm just saying what I feel, and I think that one of the problems that comes up in this category of transparency is that when we start using social media and not direct, we're getting all kinds of offshoots to the facts. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
We'll always listen to what each other has to say.
I hope so.
Okay. So we addressed the Al Bruno. Chris, did you want to say something about Chris Timniak?
The original interview panel was supposed to consist of 2 select members, and at first it did. Obviously, one of the select members had a commitment that they needed to attend to, and we agreed at the outset of forming the panel that if any one member of the panel wasn't available, those members that were asked to participate, rather, that we would continue forward in conducting the recruitment. I actually think that was a question that you had directly, Al, which was, these 5 people on a panel, it's a lot of different schedules to juggle. What's your plan in the event one of these people isn't available?
Yeah, and then it actually happened to me when I had a conflict.
And then it actually happened to you.
Right.
So Chris Timniak was actually one of the original members that committed quite early on
Mm-hmm.
to the process. He wasn't a last-minute addition. In my opinion, he was one of the most important people to have on the panel because he did represent the outside perspective and subject matter expert for the chief administrative officer, since that's what he does for the town of Stratford.
Mm-hmm.
We have hiring procedures that this board approved back in 2019 or 2020. They were followed. The panel did. So we did receive 14 applications. I don't think it was 18. Like any other recruitment, those applications were screened by me initially for minimum qualifications. After that, I have a meeting with the first select person typically, and we determine whether an interview panel needs to be established. Given that this was a department head or senior level position, we thought it was appropriate to form an interview committee, and that's what we did. So to Selectman Moody's point, there was originally supposed to be an additional select member participating on the panel, but due to the fact that we had the interviews scheduled and the other panel members committed, we thought it was prudent to move forward in conducting the interviews and putting two candidates that we felt were best qualified for the position forward. And in doing so, we referred those two names to first selectman for further consideration.
I don't have a problem with that.
Hold on a minute.
Go ahead.
Hold on, okay. So we did that, and I know you don't have a problem with that. We followed the procedure. So we had the two names, we did the two interviews, and I gave you my feedback on both of them.
You held your own interviews with the two candidates that we referred to you, and then you made a selection. And during that whole process, we met with this board because originally the pay plan needed to be revised by the board or amended because there was concern that the salary range for the CAO position was low. I believe it was 85 and change to around 123. And I remember having a meeting here with the full board to discuss the salary range and how it should be adjusted in order to help us recruit highly qualified candidates. And I believe we wound up approving the revised salary range of 95 to 145. And then during the last meeting, the board voted and approved for first selectman to engage with one of the candidates in negotiations, which we also did. Now, I'm not familiar with the timeline of the negotiation process as it relates to anything that was occurring at the time on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but I can say that the negotiation process did take time and required several meetings between both Anne Marie, myself, and town council to get to a final approved agreement.
And I believe this board, in one of our meetings, gave our HR director permission to negotiate a contract that we all agreed upon.
No, we didn't all agree upon it. We did not agree on it, and we haven't seen the contract.
No,
We asked
hold
for
on,
it.
hold on.
Go ahead.
Maybe I wasn't clear in my statement. This board gave permission to our HR director to negotiate a contract.
Correct.
That
Correct.
was my statement. I
And I
apologize.
believe a statement from this board was, we trust that Mr. Pelosi will not give away the farm. That's
Was it the farm or the
okay.
house?
the house, whatever.
There was discussion about the maximum salary.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's other considerations too. There's, on the 18th, there was concern about how the candidates would cut ties with their current employees. Does any of that bleed over at this point? We don't know that. I mean, that's a question that I would like answered. If I saw the contract, I would know. There's also, please understand, I don't have any issue with the way we did things. I think it was professional and was done with integrity. My point that I'm trying to make is that when this came out in Facebook, it looked like that the CAO of the town of Stratford was the original person for the panel. When thoughtfulness and consideration to have two members of the Board of Selectmen, a majority representation and a minority and a majority representation, that was it was supposed to be. It does sound trivial as I speak it right now, I know, but that is the foundation of the transparency that I am saying. I'd like to point out that we did business on Facebook, and how it gets construed by other people, how it's not the fact, because the people that do the work need to get the credit. I understand that. But it's a small little thing, but it is still not 100% accurate.
I'm understanding, so you're saying you're upset that Al's name wasn't mentioned as another.
No, and I think
Because if there was such thought and incredible and I think it was prudent on the part of the first select person to say two members would be on it. I mean, I said to Mr. Bruno, I was disappointed you weren't in the process because, as a colleague, I respect you and I think you're extremely intelligent.
Right, and I appreciate that, Phil, and I told you already, I had a conflict that was unavoidable. These interviews were gonna go during a weekday from, I believe, 1 p.m. to about 5 or 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's a tough time, and something came up, and that's just the way it is.
That's
why my name is not mentioned in there, because I did not participate
I understand.
in the process, and it would be not a transparent thing to put my name in there saying I participated in it when I didn't, when I had to pull out.
Right.
I don't know, a couple of days beforehand, right? I believe
Yeah.
it was 3 or 4. Chris, I can't remember the exact timing, but I think it was
It was shortly
Couple
before.
of work days
It
or
was
something.
shortly
Phil, I
before.
get it. It's one of those perceptual things, but I think if each one of us sat down to write this article, we'd all write it differently
And
and
that's
say
the problem.
something a little different, but that's how it goes. Communication's fickle like that.
Well,
You know?
we're not in the business of fickle. We're in the business of facts.
you're absolutely right, and I do believe that if it wasn't Kurt Miller that was hired, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I think if I went with the other person, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all.
Well, that's,
think it's- I think
disagree
it's
with
being-
that opinion. That's not my intent. And I understand that. I'm not going there. I'm not
Neither
going
was
there.
I.
I'm not going, but it is Kurt Miller,
It
and it is an election year, and it is the truth. So I
So it is
wasn't even
political.
going into that rabbit hole at all. I am bringing up that if I didn't voice my opinion, I would feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing as part of your executive team and representing the people of Seymour. And I don't even want to get into that part of it, but to say that if it wasn't Kurt Miller, in your opinion, that we wouldn't be having this conversation. If it wasn't Kurt Miller and the course of events are exactly the same, we damn well would be having this conversation.
Okay. All right.
I just don't agree we can have our hands in every bit of communication that comes out of town hall.
No, but Phil is right. I should have made sure. And I admit when I'm wrong. I don't have a problem admitting when I'm wrong.
Me either.
I don't. I understand. I should have made sure that it was on the agenda on
I agree.
8/1.
I agree with you.
So that is my fault, and I apologize to this board for that.
And I feel remiss that on that Tuesday, the 1st, I should have asked again. I did. And I feel like I didn't because let the board trip over itself. No, that's not the reason why. I should have called you, but it didn't happen that way. And this is the reason, these are the things. The panel, like the last sentence, the panel had nothing to do with the negotiation.
So, hold
And
on.
we didn't get
I'm
a
gonna-
chance to see the contract.
So I'm going to stop you right
All right,
there.
go ahead.
So when I put that in there, and in the contract, Chris Pelosi negotiated the contract. Chris Pelosi was mentioned in the article. I get your posts are too verbose. You put too much information in there. So try to shrink it down to what it is, right? I mean, okay, I thank the panel and Chris Pelosi for
I guess I
doing the
understand.
work and working on the contract. Boom. Chris Pelosi worked on the contract. We as a board, we gave him that permission to work on that contract, right?
I don't think that even needed to be on Facebook. I think that one of the points Phil is making is that the announcement should have been here.
And I just apologized for that for Fred, and I just like I apologized
But
that
no-
night that you
no-
said that to me.
No Facebook writing about this was necessary. No.
To let everybody know, we don't, you're right, Fred, because we don't even announce on Facebook when we hire a public works director, when we hire anybody. But yet on Facebook, when are we hiring our new CAO? Who's the new CAO?
Ignore it.
When they're calling the office and they're,
I know.
I don't ignore any constituent.
No, I didn't say you were,
No. I know you're not. I know you're not. And I know this is not you and I going at each other either. It is a concern. You're bringing it to my attention, and I appreciate it. And I have no problem admitting I messed up by not putting it on the agenda. Did I not put it on the agenda to hide it? Nope, because you guys knew who we were talking about, who was getting hired. Everybody knew. Everybody out in the TV world, in Facebook world, in the rumor mill, in the 16,549 residents we have in town, knew who was being interviewed.
I
To
heard-
that
I
point,
heard all
though-
the rumors, but I didn't know. I heard the rumors,
but to that point,
and I'm a select person. It should have been announced here.
Right.
Again, I'm saying it
Okay.
should be redundant. But
How many, you want to beat the horse and bring it to the glue factory?
No.
Why does it need to be announced here, though?
because
If
it's
we-
official
Because-
town business.
No, wait, hold on. Why does it need to be announced here when we voted? We knew who we were voting for the first select person to go negotiate.
We knew the two finalists.
Two finalists.
we
We didn't know the individual. We gave her permission to hire the two finalists put forth by the committee,
Right, but
period.
we gave, right, but we
Period.
gave her, okay.
And she
I
does have the
asked-
ultimate authority because
I
she is the
asked-
CEO of the
Right, we
community.
gave her that authority to
Right.
do that.
I asked at 8:30 PM on Tuesday, the 18th. And I was led to believe we were a bit away from finalizing the contract. It was in its basic draft form, I quote, and the consideration of existing employment. 48 hours later, the contract signed. I don't know nothing. To assume that we all knew is not official announcement or an official business being done by the town of Seymour. I'm saying that I'm seeing a problem, and we got to head this problem off. And I'm only using this and Mr. Miller as an example of a bigger picture.
We follow process here when we hire.
I didn't say you did. I just,
No, there is a process in place, Chris.
Absolutely,
Do we follow it?
yes,
Is it a written process?
yes,
Is there a written procedure?
yes.
Do other departments follow a procedure or process?
All town departments follow the same hiring protocol.
is there a protocol that the announcement of a new position be presented to the town on Facebook?
How did the Board of Ed?
Or does it get presented to the Board of Selectmen through a public meeting?
The way the candidate is announced is not part of the hiring procedure.
Okay. Okay. But it's not
No, it's not.
said that we could do it on Facebook, right?
The hiring procedure has mentioned nothing about.
It's silent.
how
Thank
it's
you.
officially
All right.
announced.
I know we have a lot on the agenda. I would not be able to sleep tonight if I didn't do this, and I think it's important. I think that any discussion is progress and not criticism. I mean, no criticism to anybody, but I have trouble enough falling asleep at these recent nights as it is, and I needed to get this off my chest, and I needed to make my opinion, and I apologize for taking up so much of everybody's time. Please say it's okay. I'm waiting.
It's fine.
Thank
I mean, why would you not think it's okay, Phil? It's fine. If you have a concern, right? If anybody has a concern, you, Selectman Stanek, Selectwoman Dinka, anybody has a concern, we want to hear about it.
Well, that's why
And
we're here,
If
right?
I'm wrong, I want to be told I'm wrong. I have a 19-year-old daughter. I am told I am wrong all the darn time. You don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead, Mr.
If I
Slade.
may, during this process, correct me if I'm wrong, we as a Board of Select Persons voted once, had one vote involved in the process. Is that correct?
Yes.
I don't think in the whole process, I think we did vote, I think there were a couple of steps. I think one was the salary, I think two.
Nope, the salary was between here and here. You know, the
Right, but
board
we
voted
agreed-
on.
We voted to increase the salary for the position, that was one
I don't
thing.
think we voted.
I don't think we voted on it. I think
Definitely
Chris
did not
presented
vote on
it to
that.
the
Definitely
board.
did
The only
not.
vote
In
on
his
the
role.
position was in June to allow Mr. Pelosi to go into negotiation. Because it was already written that the first select person will go make the final decision. That's already written. So we put the business forth and said they could go into negotiation, but it has, it is the final decision and lays solely on the lap of the first select person. That's the point.
That's a charter.
Right. So when I read this originally, those 4 or 5 points that I tried to bring out made me see it like that. Part of the problem is this transparency word that we keep hearing about everywhere we go, and that we need to do better details, facts, and specific. And our business should be here, like we're doing today, and not on Facebook. And I understand it's probably an oversight, and I understand we're all learning as we go, and that's the point I wanted to bring up.
And if I may,
Of course.
continue. If I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong also, the charter provides that the first select person has the total discretion to appoint the administrative assistant. And it also provides that certain other positions are administrative appointments where the first select person appoints subject to confirmation by this board. Nowhere in the charter does it talk about a high-level executive position such as the CAO, if I'm correct. So the procedure that has been discussed is something that was developed some years ago.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not part of the charter. I don't like the procedure. I think we should revisit it. I think we as a Board of Select Persons should have more involvement in the hiring of high-level executive employees such as department heads and the CAO. I think we as the Board of Select Persons, under Connecticut General Statute 7-12, are charged to superintend the operations of the town. I don't think we're doing that as a Board of Select Persons if everything funnels into the first select person. And I'm not critical of you in this position.
No.
I'm critical of the way our government is structured and the way that the Board of Select Persons, perhaps in the past, has structured the hiring process. I think there needs to be more involvement by the Board of Select Persons with the high-level hiring, just as other boards.
Well, I guess my question would be, what exactly does the charter say?
It's rather quiet on hiring.
Yeah,
It's rather quiet.
yeah,
So
that's what I thought.
So,
Yeah, we couldn't get grammar
I believe it
corrections the
says
last
that-
time.
yeah,
The first selectman or select person can create, abolish any position. I believe that's in there. And on the abolishment of a position, it would have to be by 2/3 majority of this board.
well, I'll have to look at the charter again. I've looked at it many times. I don't recall that provision, but I'll look at it.
I do know we've discussed wanting more involvement, but rather than, because of the time frame needed, the times needed to do the interview process, that's why the panel was put together, including select persons on that panel, rather than the entire board.
Well,
and I think that started with when we were going to look for a public works director,
Yeah.
way back when, after, I think it was Dennis Rosen had left. Excuse me, they were running the people they were interviewing through this board. And whereas the charter says that the Department of Public Works would be in charge of hiring their director. So by running them through this board, we're going against the charter, and that's why the Department of Public Works did the interview, and then they would tell us who they were interviewing. Is that correct, Chris?
I was on that board.
So was I. So was Bruno.
Yep.
So I
But-
made my point. I'm not going to belabor it. We've talked enough about that issue. Once again, I think when we hire, especially a high-level employee, that there should be an announcement at this level and the details of the job, what the job entails, as well as salary and benefits should be announced to the Board of Select Persons. We should be informed at the time the public is informed. I think that's important to try to eliminate the rumors and the Facebook warriors who go back and forth and back and forth. That way the facts are out and everybody can stop talking about rumors. But I do think with the charter revision coming up, you indicated we would be appointing a charter revision commission.
You volunteering?
No. I'll give input, but I'm not going to be a member. I'm getting too old to be members of all these committees. Anyway, be that as it may, I think that we need to take a good look at our
I agree.
charter and our form of government. And we might even consider an alternative form of government in the future. Maybe a town manager form of government is something we should start talking about.
So there was actually
I'm not trying to put you out of a seat, that's for sure.
Well,
I am.
It's relevant because the,
that was on a
it was a
referendum.
recent, well, it was also a recent article that was published, in
Oh, wait,
Connecticut
hold
about
on, go ahead.
If I could just weigh in a little bit on the charter questions. You're the chief executive officer of the town. The charter gives you a specific power to be responsible for all employees and administrative appointments. That's your responsibility, and you're the chief executive. Then there's another provision in the charter that deals with the human resource director that says that the human resource director shall direct and oversee all aspects of human resources management for the town, including policies and procedures, recruitment, hiring, compensation management, benefits administration, employment, labor law, employee and employee relations. So your charter does seem to give that authority to the first select woman, but it also gives significant authority to your director of human, your manager. The title is actually manager of human resources. So I'm just saying that. That's what your charter says. That came out of, I believe, the last charter revision or the one before that?
The one before.
The
that.
one
was the
before
one
It was before that. Because the last one was
Were you on that one?
No, I was the chairman of
It
the
was-
last charter.
It was the
revision.
one before.
2000.
that.
Right, it was the one
They
before
kind of,
that.
yeah. So I'm just pointing that out for everybody, for your thought process when you think about these things.
So I think we need to discuss and have clarification on the hiring process. And I do, one more time, I'm going to say, feel that the Board of Select Persons should have more involvement with the high-level executive positions.
Chris, at the next meeting, would you please bring us a copy of the hiring process?
Be happy to do so.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, could we move on the agenda? We've been at this about 35 minutes now.
Always important.
I didn't say it wasn't.
I know.
I said, we've been at it 35 minutes. I think we've exhausted it.
Okay. No further discussions? Okay, item number 6, report of the Human Resource Director. While,
Wait. Can we add to the agenda
Oh,
the
yeah.
steep,
oh,
resolution for the steep grant?
sure. Can I have a motion to add the resolution
I
to
just
the
made that
Steve
motion.
grant by?
Second.
Yes, you're right, thank you. Trish, second by Phil. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Report from the Human Resource Director. Chris, when you give your report, Teresa mentioned the special project manager. Can you go into the details of why that title was changed on the budget from whatever that other person's title's name was? Why we switched the names on that?
One was an administrative appointment, and the special projects coordinator was a new position that was developed to provide administrative support to both myself and the chief administrative officer, as well as work on any this time, there's not a plan in place to go out and recruit for special projects, but I anticipate over the next year or so, hopefully we can fill the position again.
Okay, so to go with that, we have the first select person, then we have the appointed administrative assistant, right? That's in the charter. Those two positions are in the charter, correct? The former administrative assistant, throughout their tenure at town hall for the past 10 years, was moved from an administrative assistant to the chief of staff. From the chief of staff, he was still in that position. This board, prior to you coming on, Phil, it was when former Selectman Bowman was on this board, we were looking at our,
Succession.
thank you, our succession plan. And we said, because this seat is really only 2 years. Well, you know what I mean, it's a 2-year term. From there, that person that was in that seat, if someone didn't carry that, if the next person, somebody different came in and he didn't stay, or if he left, there was nothing.
There's a void, and who's gonna pass the baton? I get it.
Right, so all that knowledge that that person had was gone. So that's why this board decided unanimously to change that title from a chief of staff to a chief administrative officer, to carry on succession, to help the next person that comes in line, and to continue any projects that we're going on and working on. So that's where the chief administrative officer came in, and this board decided on a contract for that position.
I have one question.
Oh, go ahead.
The special projects position was changed to heighten the salary of the chief administration officer to get more quality, because that represented a better salary to get better quality for that. Is that more beneficial than to have the chief administrative officer have an assistant? What's the better benefit for the town of Seymour and the office? Is it just to pay the chief administrator more money so we get a better chief administrative officer? Not that we don't have a good one now, but the point should have been, was there discussion? Is it, we're gonna give more money, but would it have been better for Seymour to have a chief administrative officer and an assistant
I
to
got
do
this.
the work?
I got this. So, once, and I can't mention his name because he's no longer an employee, correct? Once the former CAO, right, was leaving, once the former CAO went to that position, we took and hired an administrative assistant. Well, no, the administrative assistant was there already in the agenda, in the budget as an administrative assistant, not the appointed position.
Oh, okay.
Not the appointed position, because the former CAO was the appointed position.
All right.
Okay, so we had an administrative assistant. That administrative assistant was there, and he was helping put the agendas together, because the CAO was doing other projects. So he was basically doing the agendas, typing up the minutes, doing everything that the appointed position was supposed to be doing. You following? Then, when that person gave their notice, I then appointed someone, as per the charter, the administrative appointment to the first select person. So we still have the same number of employees that we had. There is no one was added to the office. But we decided that Chris, our HR person, he needed help, because now he's handling all of the Board of Ed's personnel issues. He's handling all of the PD's health and benefits, and going through all their new hires, and he's handling all of town hall. So that special projects manager was going to be helping Chris and the former CAO before he left.
Got it.
That's why that was in the budget. Then when the resignation came in, that's when it was looked at, well, we have to go hiring, what are we going to do? Well, we can take from there and not hire that person if we had to. Does that make sense?
Kind of. I mean, I follow you. You didn't lose me.
So we didn't add any positions in
Right.
there. Because those positions there, the title was just changed.
We amended the salary range so that we could attract qualified people. At one of the prior meetings, I passed around the salary survey that showed where the former CAO was paid comparatively to other municipalities ranging between 14 and
I saw-
19,000
yeah.
population.
Yes, I remember.
It was grossly undercompensated.
I understand that, but the question,
So, can I,
go ahead,
so
sorry.
So the decision then was to advertise the position at the range as it existed, 80 to 120, which would have meant candidates with bachelor's degrees in political science, business administration, public administration, fresh out of school with relatively little experience. And that was the decision that was made in light of the salary survey data, as well as several meetings between myself, Anne Marie, and the former CAO to discuss exactly what you just raised, which is what is most important and necessary for Seymour to move forward. And the answer to that question is the most qualified person that we can find to continue driving these projects forward, that position is responsible.
I understand that
In doing
fully.
so, I forfeited my own administrative support to get there, as well as the administrative support that the candidate that we hired has as well.
We found ourselves in a unique position. We raised the salary range. We're in a unique position because we have somebody with experience. But sometime, we are going to have to deal with the fact that we may not get a chief administrative officer that has that kind of experience, and we may have to start, whether it's that job or another job, at a base level and mold a person into that, right?
This is a conversation that we have at least once a year when we look at our pay plan.
Right.
And, one of the strategic
That's what it comes down to.
items I was asked to look at was recruitment and compensation in order to retain highly qualified staff. And so I posed this question to the full board a number of times as it relates to the pay plan, and it's essentially, where does the board want to land with respect to the market level as far as salary ranges go for these positions? And I think in the analysis we did, it demonstrated that we were in many cases below average as far as salary and benefits in many of our agreements were concerned. So we took steps to create a pay plan to address both internal pay equity as well as where we stood with respect to other municipalities and their salary ranges. And so I think that drives exactly it.
But with
We're
that
talking about
additional
now.
salary
Where
range,
does-
there
right,
were,
Where does the town want to be? How does it want to compensate its employees? Is it at market level, below, 10% higher? I don't know. That's just for this board to decide, and ultimately I think we all agreed that we, at the very worst, wanted to be at market, if not a
But
little bit higher.
but there were additional job duties added to that as well. It wasn't just what was prior, because we did increase that range. And that is only because I was around when the HR director position was developed, and I helped create some of those job responsibilities. That right now, Chris in that role is responsible for looking at competitive salaries within a similar market as Seymour to make sure that we're in line and can remain competitive so that we're attracting the right people. He's also responsible for doing the same, making sure we're getting something similar with insurance, that we're getting the lowest rates and going out and looking at those every year. So that's his job. It's not, you probably should tell us when those ranges change, and I think Chris does a good job at coming and telling us when they change. But he's also good about if the duty's changing a little bit, adding those additional duties to also make it worth that while, so we're not having to hire multiple staff in the interim.
But I think that what my question that comes up was, does it benefit Seymour citizens that we have a higher paid CAO or a CAO and an assistant? Which is better? I think that's where what I question. What's better for the people of Seymour? And I understand it's just an opinion, but
I think the question is what's best for Seymour, revising salary range so that we have the ability to attract highly qualified people versus leaving the salary range as it was. Because what you just said, is it better to pay the candidate, what was your statement again? Is it better to pay the chief administrative officer?
the chief administrative officer, I understand that it was to attract more, we have to raise the salary range. I understand that. But my question is, I should be asking is, even if we increase the salary range and try to attract a better CAO, is it better to put all the money in the CAO or have a CAO and an assistant position because there is so much work? Not what's better that we get, bang for our buck, but what's best for Seymour. That was the question that
So
I
Chris,
think
he's saying,
about.
should we, if I understand,
Yeah.
should we have hired someone that's at the lowest level of the pay scale and had an administrative assistant? Would that be more beneficial than hiring someone highly qualified for the CAO
Right, and then
position?
right.
Correct?
With the level of responsibility that the CAO has, I think that amending the salary range is the best possible situation area for Seymour, rather than hiring with the original range plus administrative support for myself and for the incumbent in the position.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, Chris, go ahead, sorry.
My human resources report.
Yep.
Getting back to Trish's comments about marketing insurances, I wanted to just close the loop on the health insurance renewal, as well as everything else that we marketed for the upcoming fiscal year. But this past year, we spent, combined with the Board of Ed, $7,797,796 to insure both town and Board of Education staff. The original proposal from Anthem, had we remained with them, was a 28.6% increase, which would have resulted in our total annual premium increasing to roughly $9.5 million. Obviously, remaining with Anthem wasn't financially sustainable for the town, so we did a full RFP, and thankfully, we were able to secure United Healthcare and Delta Dental Insurance, who were able to come in at $7.3 million, which actually resulted in $428,000 savings for both the town and Board of Ed. The town saved roughly $140,000, the Board of Ed saved roughly $190,000. And because I'm working towards not disrupting the relationship we have with insurance carriers every year, it seems, we were also able to get a 12.9% rate cap on the second year with United Healthcare and Delta Dental. So that is the worst case scenario for next year's insurance renewal. Hopefully, our claims experience trends better than it has in the past. And with that, we also got a $100,000 premium credit. So if you consider that as well, it was closer to $500,000 that we saved, which I consider a huge success because Typically, you don't come in flat on an insurance renewal, and to save money on one is, in my experience, not something that you usually encounter. So that is one thing I'm pleased to report. In addition to the medical insurance, we're also marketing the life insurance, disability insurance for both short-term and long-term policies. And in doing so, we've saved about $40,000 moving all of those products away from Anthem and to the Hartford. So in addition to moving those products, I also am looking at moving the over 65 retiree Medicare supplemental plan as well. So expect a report from me probably sometime next month as it relates to where we stand on getting through the implementation of changing the over 65 plan as well. But as I've said, the transition for the actives is done. I think it's been positively received for the most part. United Health Care has put a number of different things in place to help smooth the transition to the greatest extent possible. So that more or less wraps up where I am with insurance. For recruitment, obviously we included the Chief Administrative Officer recruitment. So I'm moving on to work on the mechanic vacancy in the Public Works Department, as well as the administrative assistant position that's also full-time for the Public Works Department. And there's also a part-time position for the fire office for Fire Marshal Willis to have a part-time administrative support position as well. So we'll be sitting down with one of the volunteer chiefs as well as Fire Marshal Willis to invite several candidates in for interviews in the coming weeks. And that more or less summarizes where I am with recruitment. The supervisor's contract is underway as far as negotiations go. I met with our committee as well as the union last week, and we reached a verbal tentative agreement. So I'm going to be preparing a red line copy of the contract to present to the board and discuss all of the changes that we've tentatively agreed to sometime next month. And those are more or less the three biggest items that I've been working on over the past couple of months. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if any of the select members have any.
Selectman Stanek?
If I may, what's the status of filling the assessor's position? I mean, that's a very important position.
Absolutely. So right now, the assistant assessor is acting out of class as our full-time assessor. And she is currently going to be sitting for the CCMA 1 certification exam this fall. So we are going to reopen that recruitment. It was originally started when the former assessor vacated the position. And similar to, the chief administrative officer and other municipal finance positions, there aren't a lot of assessors that possess the certifications necessary to fill the position, especially at the pay range that we offer in our supervisor's union contract. I think it's around $97,000 if I'm not mistaken. At the time we announced the position, there were 14 other municipalities all paying north of what we do in Seymour. So after several months of having that recruitment advertised and receiving no qualified applications, we decided that it would be best to close the recruitment and open it again in the fall. And so that, as of right now, is our plan to get someone into that position as quickly as possible.
Very good. I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Any further questions? Chris, did you mention the Public Works Administration?
The current director has made the decision to forfeit one of the positions that he has in order to
hire a full-time administrative assistant, which my understanding is that at one point in time Seymour did have a full-time administrative support position dedicated to taking calls. Anyone who works town hall knows how many times a day the phone rings in Marie's office with a public works related issue. So, in my assessment of things and meeting with the public works director, we think that the best course of action is to replace that position and get someone in that role that's dedicated solely to administrative support for his department.
And by doing that, I think that would ease up on the phone calls and time spent on public works stuff, so that
Your office.
through my office, absolutely, through the town hall with the person there forwarding the information, taking the notes, which would eliminate some of the stuff there, so that would free that person up a little bit more to help out with you and with the CAO.
Right.
I got a quick question. Couldn't we entertain the motion that maybe instead of a dedicated, if he's gonna give up a labor position for administrative, couldn't we put a labor position so that it's still a qualified driver? Because they always have problems with drivers in plow season, and that person could hold the, have the ability to be a driver and do the administrative position.
So laborers aren't required to have CDLs, so I think we're mixing.
Oh, it's just a laborer's, okay, okay.
Remember, their contract, remember when we were on the board, their contract calls for X amount of laborers and a
Right.
percentage of that to have drivers, and that's still it. They have to have X amount of laborers and X amount of drivers.
If I may, I'm not in
Absolutely.
favor of eliminating a laborer in public works.
We
I
don't
think
have a say in
there's-
that,
I'm
but I
just
know.
saying, I'm articulating my position as a member of this board. I think there's enough work that needs to be done by the laborers in the department. Perhaps reconsideration might be given to a new position as a receptionist for town hall and public works, taking in calls coming in, and also have somebody policing the front door. Somebody watching who's coming in. We worry about security in the schools. I worry about security in our town buildings.
But you missed it last week.
So there's someone watching and registering and taking names, people who come through the front door. Oxford does that now. They have a receptionist who keeps track of who's in and out and where the person is going. I just think it's something to consider.
No, I mean, that's,
And that person would answer phones.
I don't know that we'll fill that this year, though. With the budget
understand
getting
that.
slammed so many times, it's
I
something to
understand
consider
that.
next time.
I'm talking about the future. But I still think Public Works needs all the help it has. They do a great job, and I don't want to see that compromised.
any other further?
Thank you.
Okay, all right, this resolution. So we have a municipal certification for resolution, and this is to go out for a steep grant. The steep grant is a $500,000 grant that would be used for the Seymour Community Center. If the town of Seymour was to get this steep grant, that would give us a little over $1 million to do work, much needed work at the community center. I think we figured, and I know the community center board has not met, but I think we figured for that community center it was like $3 million just to get it, but the $1 million would get that building
Code compliant.
code compliant, cleaned up, and be able to use all 3 floors. So, you want to read the resolution, or no? I can have Trish read it if you want.
Yeah, I took Trish Reed as a mascot.
Trish, can you read the resolution?
Resolved that First Selectwoman Anne Marie Dragonis be and hereby is authorized to accept on behalf of the town of Seymour a 2023 Connecticut steep grant in the amount of $500,000 for the Seymour Community Center. And further resolved that First Selectwoman Anne Marie Dragonis is hereby authorized to enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to obtain said 2023 steep grant with the state of Connecticut.
Hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Al. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Discussion and take possible action regarding the project authorization letter for the spot improvement on Route 67 Bank Street. This has been an ongoing program, an ongoing project by the state of Connecticut. They're widening Route 67, but they're calling it the spot improvement, and it's basically going to take place from Franklin Street. They're improving that corner, widening it on the Ed's Cleaner side, and going up all the way up to the McDonald's Claritas Plaza. So if you know you've driven 67, it kind of gets all bottlenecky there, where you're trying to merge two lanes into one up until you get to Walgreens or Martha Streets, and then it starts to open up to two to turn in there. So what it is they're taking, not on the 98 Bank Street side where the old Board of Ed used to be, but on the Ed's Cleaner side, they're going to take some of that road. They're going to clear out the corner. It's 175 feet west of Swan Avenue, which extends easterly into the Naugatuck River for approximately 2,300 feet. This is funding done by the Federal Surface Transportation Program Block Grant. They're paying 80%, and we have to come up with the 20%, but this was done, I think, when Kurt Miller was in office, maybe even Paul Roy at the time. We were responsible for the maintenance and operation of all municipality facilities, constructions. This came in front of this board. We're going to do the sidewalks all going to get done from Franklin Street all the way up, with new curbing as well and some lighting, so that area will be lit better as well. So what we need to do is, this board needs to give permission to sign this letter, because I have to return it to the state by the 28th of August.
So, I mean, it just seems like a win-win situation, except for the 20%. Do we have the 20%?
We have the 20%. We already earmarked the 20%
We did?
for this project.
Okay,
I know it was
all right.
coming.
We knew it was coming. Like I said, this is an ongoing project.
Make a motion to allow the First Selectwoman to sign the state of Connecticut letter from the Department of Transportation.
Seconded.
Motion by Trish, second by Pat. Discussion?
Is the state of Connecticut going to take any of the properties by eminent domain as was once discussed?
Some of it, so yeah, they're waiting on the easements. They must have got the easement letters in, so that's why now they can start with the project.
But are they going to take private property at all? To eminent domain?
Just part of the sidewalks, that's it.
That's it.
They're not gonna be taking, they're not removing, before the rumor mill starts, they're not gonna be
Yes.
taking any houses, any buildings down. They're just taking a part of the sidewalks, that's it.
Because that was discussed some years ago. that
Yeah.
The state was going to take its cleaners, the houses next door.
Well, before it was, they were gonna take the part of where 98 Bank Street is, that whole corner, they were gonna take part of that, but now they switched it to take the other side, because the other side sidewalks are much wider.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, once this project is done, remember when Seymour Lumber was there, that parking area was, and that's why that lot is having a hard time to sell, is the DOT is no longer gonna allow anybody to take a left-hand turn out of there. They now can only take a right, and they have to go down and around. So that's why it's kind of having, that's why that lot is having a hard time selling, it's because you can only go out one way now. You can go in one way and out the same way. And it can only, you can take a right in, and you can only take a right out. You can't take the left in, and you can't take a left out.
Gotcha.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Discussion and take possible action regarding awarding the bid for the townwide 2024 reevaluations. So if you remember in our meeting August 1st, we went in and how, we always do, the state of Connecticut does a 5-year reevaluation, and we couldn't get the 2020 done, even though it was COVID. They said, no, you still had to do it. So we said, okay, we have until 2025 for our reval. States came back and said, nope, we're gonna do a 2024 reevaluation. Also remember, it was taken out of the Board of Finance, took it out of our budgets. It was taken out of the budget. So we approved last meeting, August 1st, to use ARPA money for that. So we have our assistant assessor here, acting as the assessor, to present. Hi, Tar. Hi. Come on up.
So just present it.
Yeah, sure. We'll figure it out.
Yep.
So I sent out bids for to be bid for the reval.
Mhm.
I got back from four different companies that bid on the project. The company that we presently use is Vision. They sent back the cost of the original bid was $109,700. That doesn't include doing pictures of each property to attach to the field card. So that would be another 17 and change for a total of 127,000. Our highest bid was through Unival, which total cost with pictures and everything was 139,000. I don't know anything about Unival, or the next one is Tyler Technologies. They were at 134,000 and change. And then we got a bid from Equality. Their total cost for the whole project, including images and everything, was 114,000. In my opinion, I'm working with both Equality and Vision. The software and everything through Equality is a much better software. Their customer service is a lot better. Very user-friendly. The whole process and all the revaluations I've done with Equality has been very smooth, clean. They're going to do a conversion with their programs. That's all free of cost also. Vision, they're a good company. Customer service isn't that well. I'm kind of waiting a couple of days to answer some questions on how to use software, how to run some reports. So in my experience, the best company to be using for this would be Equality.
Okay, thank you. Just stay there in case you have any questions. If you remember, we okayed, I believe it was 139,000 in ARPA money for this in our last meeting. And since we're going to Equality, that's 114,000, so we're okay there. So that means we have extra ARPA money left over. We can use elsewhere, which is great, fantastic. I'm kind of glad we're not going with the former one. I know from hearing from residents when we did the 2020 evaluation that the people weren't knocking on the doors, they weren't presenting their ID, they weren't easy to work with.
I mean, the last revaluation was a little tough because that's when COVID started.
I understand, but when our residents call and say, hey, I have a question,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
they should be able to answer that. So, and I think it will make it easier on our Board of Assessment Appeals when, people are coming here if they want to appeal their taxes.
And if I could, through Madam First Selectwoman, I just went through a review of Equality, they were excellent. So,
Okay.
they did a very good job.
Is there any questions from the board?
Well, I have no questions regarding the quotes. I have a question regarding whether this needs to go to town meeting or not, because it exceeds $100,000. And I believe under our process and our fiscal process in 14.4, we're obligated to do that.
So, it would be my humble opinion that you're not required to do that. These are ARPA monies. ARPA monies, in my opinion, and the conventional wisdom in terms of folks looking at it, are treated as grant monies. This is, in effect, what is known as a formula grant, and towns and cities across the country and across the state of Connecticut are approving the allocation of ARPA monies through, not by the executive, no one as far as I know is doing it through the executive, but doing it through the town council or the board of select persons. Is there definitive guidance on it? No, ARPA does not include definitive guidance on allocation methodology. But I'm telling you, in my opinion, it is similar to a grant. You wouldn't go through that process when you receive a grant, and therefore, the Board of Select persons is making the allocation. It's open, it's transparent, everyone can see it, and it is subject to being audited at the appropriate time. I will also tell you, my view on it is consistent with the view of CCM, which put out guidance on it. So that's my humble opinion.
Thank you for your clarification.
To your point though, Pat, this is why it's so important that people speak up and put this back in the budget. Because if we
Absolutely.
don't have it
Right.
put in annually, that means every 5 years thereafter, the budget is, it's gonna spike. Because we have to pay for this, whether the people come out and vote for it or not. We have to find the money, revaluation has to be done. So I'm again expressing my incredible displeasure that this was removed.
The Board of Finance should take note of
They should. I have spoken.
that. No,
As
I'm
former
talking-
chair of the Strategic
No,
Planning Committee, they should.
No, I mean, the money is there in our, to get us through this revaluation, but.
Yeah,
No,
we're
it's
not gonna
gonna-
have this going forward.
Nope, we're not.
You're right.
Right, and so therefore it should be budgeted for, that's my point.
And it normally is.
Right, and they remove it.
Can I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Noes, abstains. Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Yes,
Who made the motion?
That's exactly.
There's no motion.
I'll make a motion to accept equality as the low bidder for our revaluation in
Sorry.
2024.
I'll second the motion.
motion by Trish, second by Fred. I apologize for that. All in favor?
Aye.
And Trish, if I may, Trish, I think it's good that you speak up about these finance issues, because as
Thank you.
members of the Board of Select persons, we should let other boards know what we're thinking, since we're the chief executive board of the town. Thank you.
Ready? Appointments. All right. If I mispronounce this last name, do not kill me, please. Joe Nazelski Jr.
No,
No.
Joe M.
Joe
M. Nizelski.
M as in Mary.
Yes. Right?
It's a good one, you said.
But am I saying the last
It's
name?
a good one, you're saying you're fine.
Thank you.
I make a motion to appoint Joe M. Nizelski
Junior.
Jr.
No junior?
No, junior. Okay, I amend. I make a motion to appoint Joe M. Nizelski to the Conservation Commission for an appointment of 4 years with an expiration date of August 2027.
Yep, he's replacing Cheryl
He's
McMahon.
replacing Cheryl McMahon.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Trish, second by Fred. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0.
Someone could please,
I will, but you told me it was a junior. I got the text message right here.
All right.
Trish Danka,
yeah.
Strategic Planning, go ahead.
Trish Danko, Strategic Planning Committee, replacing Rory Burke. It's an appointment to complete Rory's term. Expiration date is December of 2023.
So moved.
Motion by Pat,
Motion by-
Second.
okay. Make a motion to appoint Jenny Ann Wright.
No,
Oh,
yeah. All in
All
favor?
in favor?
Sorry, jumped ahead.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, chair votes aye, 6-0.
Make a motion to appoint Jenny Ann Rice to Conservation Commission, replacing Chris Bowen. It's an appointment completing the term through December 2023.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Oh,
need to
second, so I
second it.
knew I missed something.
I'm making the motion, so whoever is...
Second.
Second,
Okay, there we go.
Just,
it's getting
yeah.
later.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jenny Ann Rice to the Affordable Housing Committee. It's an appointment of 2 years with an expiration of August 2025.
Motion by Trish,
Second.
second by Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to appoint Mary Ann Robinson to the Affordable Housing Committee. It's an appointment for 2 years with an expiration of August 2025.
Motion by Trish,
Second.
second by Al Bruno. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0.
Make a motion to appoint Rosalie Averill to the Affordable Housing Committee, appointment of 2 years with an expiration date of August 2025.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Trish, second by Fred. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Tax refund and abatements, please look over the tax refunds and abatements. There's no issues.
I will make a motion to accept as presented.
Motion by Trish,
Seconded.
second by Pat Lombardi. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 6-0. Correspondences. I have a letter, an email here from Dr. Compton inviting, I'll read it. First Selectwoman Emery Dragonis and the Board of Select Persons, we would like to invite you to attend our Seymour Public School Convocation meeting on Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 8:00 a.m. This annual meeting will take place at the Seymour Middle School in the auditorium. We will be introducing our new employees and our 2023 Teacher of the Year, Nicole Ferron. I will send you a formal letter later this week with the complete schedule for the morning of the events and messages.
Would you make sure we get that, so I don't want to miss it?
Absolutely.
You're
We
the
will.
greatest.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll have, we'll send an invite out tomorrow to everybody.
Cool.
Okay? That's for correspondence. Public comment.
I'm James Garofolo, 163 Bungay Road, and I would like to share some thoughts that I have with the board. And in effect, these thoughts really go to this administration and the future and the effect of the administration on the future of Seymour. So please bear with me. I've lived here for 28 years, under various Republican and Democrat administrations. The majority of those administrations have been Republican. I do not believe that any of those previous administrations have anything to brag about, that they have contributed to an improved economic and community well-being. I look at surrounding communities of Oxford, Shelton, and even to a limited extent at Sonia, and ask myself if Seymour is the community in which I should continue to live, given the underwhelming community offerings of cultural, shopping, restaurants, and other attractive community amenities. November is but 2 months away, and yet there is nothing from the Republican administration as to plans for the future. Are we to be stuck once again in the same old non-visionary platform of politics as usual? We seem to be more than generous in hiring opportunists who have served Seymour, left for more lucrative endeavors, and then scramble back to feed once again at the public trough for another more expensive meal. I believe that others will also question the propriety of the political appearance of that decision. If this board genuinely cares to do the best for Seymour, then it surely must identify for the public its vision and specific plan or plans to take us forward for whatever time, or for whatever period of time is deemed necessary to accomplish the goals. Those goals, if they are to be presented, must be clearly stated with a plan as to how they would be achieved and if the community must endure any hardship associated with the plan. Only then can the citizenry decide if this administration is worthy of reelection. Another 2 years of less or even status quo. Not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stramello. Any other public comment?
Mr. Garofalo.
Garofalo.
Oh, my God, I'm sorry, Mr. Garofalo, I'm sorry. Why did I write down Mr.
That's
Stramello?
okay.
I am so sorry. I apologize.
Here and there, misquoted the names of 2 U.S. senators, but you're not a federal employee.
Thank you, Mr.
You have,
I apologize for that. Why was I thinking Mr. Stramello? I don't know. And you said Garofalo. Any other public comment? Yes.
I just look under these meetings. Lisa Conrad, 177 Schofield Street. I'm just gonna play off of a couple of things that happened here tonight. The first one, Facebook. It is an issue out there, and I don't know if people follow it. You know, my kids say, you know, none of their generation even looks at it.
Okay.
And I know you post a lot of things on the Office of the First Selectman. But we also have this Seymour CT Town page that's not an official one.
Correct.
But you do put things on there, and it's starting to get a little bit heated out there. I'm sure people have seen the comments in the past week, like 175 of them. It seems like the residents are now starting to pit each other. There's a lot of
Yeah.
innuendos going on. I would like to just suggest that if you're going to use a Facebook, just use the Office of the First Select Woman. Don't even respond to those other pages. Or have it something on your official town hall page of the updates. Because last week you put out the meetings that were going to happen last week, but this week we don't have the meetings for this week, so it's not consistent. So if you're going to be using it, I think it really needs to be consistent. That's one suggestion.
Thank you.
The second one, then thank you for responding to my question about the special assistant, projects assistant. We just went through that budget phase, and you all know how contentious it is here in Seymour for both the education and the town side. You know, sometimes I laugh when people say I'm fine with the town side because unfortunately I don't think people really get the budget on either side that much. But when we put in a position just a few months ago, and now we're taking it out to make other positions, I think that's where people are going to be starting to struggle, because they're going to look at that and say, was that done on purpose? And I think you need to give people a lot more credit in Seymour. I'm a product of the Seymour education system, so, you know, my mother used to say, I was born at night, but I wasn't last night. You know, and that's how people are going to be looking at it. It does give a lot of fodder to give people out there that say, you know, I did administration. I was a nurse manager. I had a $25 million budget. Whenever someone left, I never took someone in that I was going to be paying more. And I know, just listening to your conversations here tonight, it sounded like you had a lot of good candidates. And I don't know if, you know, I'm not here to speak on Kurt's position, but I'm not sure if that's the wisest way that we should be paying our taxpayer money. You know, the best fiscal steward should be looking at our return on investment. What are we getting? I was on this board just about 10 years ago. And when I look around Seymour, I don't see a lot of growth, but I see in town hall a lot of new positions over the last 10 years. You know, we have new operations, directors, and lots of fancy titles. I love my town. I want what's best for my town. So let's try to, like, working together and trying to get things in here. Not just, I know people say, you know, this business just came in, but just replaced another one. We need to make the return on investment for all our tax dollars to give people something back, and not just more administrative position in the town hall. That's my side, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? No other public comment? Selectwoman's report. Okay. We just had our planning and zoning meeting. The Pearl Street Town Housing application was denied this past Thursday. For those of you that are following planning and zoning, that is the old Catherine Matthews, Roberta King house. Somebody had bought that. There's about 18 acres back there. They were looking at putting townhouses back there. That was denied by planning and zoning.
What, the application for zoning change was denied.
Yep, it was
Right.
denied. So they have a choice of filing an appeal.
Right.
in the courts, not through our planning and zoning appeal, because it wasn't a hardship. Newport made their presentation, and that Newport Academy, which is looking to buy the Villa Bianca. They have not bought the Villa Bianca yet. Buying the Villa Bianca depends on if they are allowed to go in. So they made their presentation on Thursday, and that will be going up to vote at the September meeting. The apartment complex on 34 will be opening next month. He finally got everything done, so he'll be opening next month. As we know, Holbrook Road has been completed. Looks very nice if you haven't driven on it yet. Botsford, Bungay, West Church Street is going through a third-party review still. They are still waiting for comment. The town engineers are still waiting on responses from a few residents in regards to easement approvals. Once we get those easement approvals, we will go out to bid in the fall, and it looks like construction will begin in the spring. Route 67 spot improvement, I spoke about that. There was a community road meeting on August 2nd at the community center. Only a handful of residents showed up to speak about that. As you know, we are going out for a grant, a $6 million grant to continue the Franklin Street Road to all the way to the 42 connector in Beacon Falls. If we're approved for that, that road will allow for more businesses to come in there, but more importantly, eliminate the traffic jam up on 67. Holy's Pond, I was asked to look into that. Aquarium has no plans to dredge that pond. We are having a community awareness meeting on August 21st at the community center at 7 o'clock. This meeting is to inform the residents of what help is out there, from the food insecurities to heating and electrical help. We've had a couple of seniors ask about rental rebates, what can we do about that, as well as some help on their mortgage, their tax relief. So that meeting will be at the community center August 21st at 7 o'clock. There'll be members from team, town municipal aid, the chief of police, and the community officer. Couple of events, the townwide scavenger hunt, which is sponsored by Love Mom, XOXO, is on the 20th. As 26th is the city of Ansonia, the town of Seymour present Rock the Valley at Newland Field. That is when we do our annual fireworks. That is also the same day as Citizens Engine Fire Company number 2's Lobster Bake. And the Connecticut Hurricanes will be hosting a fan fair at the Seymour High School. Just a reminder, August 30th is the first day of school. Please be patient and remember that you must stop for the stop signs on the buses, as well as our stop signs. Our younger residents will be standing at the bus stops and or walking to school. And also please obey the speed limit and traffic signs. And next month I'll be giving an update on Tri-Town, the building that has been empty for over 20 years. That is all I have. On to select members' comments.
I have nothing. I think I commented a lot.
No.
But I appreciate the ability to debate, discuss, and talk. I think it's very progressive. I think it's very important that we do this. And I think that we should start thinking outside the box a little more often. And I think that we should put some real thought into the use of Facebook and the like. And I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Selectman Stanek.
Thank you. I want to compliment Public Works for the fine job it did in cleaning up a mess left by a large tree falling by my house, past my house Friday afternoon. They were very efficient, removed the tree quickly, and cleaned up the mess. I know I saw a comment on Facebook, someone saying, well, they're getting paid double time or overtime. That's not the point. They did a great job. And I wanted to compliment them. And with regard to Holbrook Road, I drove down the road a few times. I thought it was in Vermont or New Hampshire. I'd like to compliment the engineering as well as the construction and the supervision. Thank you. I have nothing else.
Selectman Bruno.
Yeah, I just want to echo Fred's comments about Holbrook. Karen would be very proud how that road came out because she really wanted that fixed. So when I first drove on Holbrook, I thought of Karen and said she would love the way this road looks. It's a good looking street now, and it's not the dangerous road it used to be, which is what Karen was always concerned about. So it's nice to see that finally done. And regarding Public Works, a tree was down this morning on off of Tomlinson, and they were out there and they were fixing it early this morning when I was leaving for work about 7:15, 7:30. So our Public Works guys work really hard. To go after them on social media is completely inappropriate. We have a great department. Tony DePrimo really set the tone, and we have a team now that's keeping that going, what Tony started. So kudos to them, and that's all I have to say.
All right, well, I've already said my bit on reevaluation. Just want to make a comment too, with some of the public comment. Sitting here for as long as I have, the most frustrating thing that I can think of is how long anything in government takes. There's a plan, everything's trying to be improved. As the first woman said, there will be an update on the Ames Plaza next month. That's been painful through many administrations, and it's been really tough on this board and anyone in Seymour because we own so little. We don't really own anything in town, so we can't make anybody do anything. And as good as plans as we can come up with and things that we want to do, and I'm not trying to force this on the taxpayers at all, but it kind of goes back to we have to get budgets passed for things that we want to do. I mean, I have all sorts of things in my head that I'd love to do, and I don't bring them up because I know there's no funds to do them. And I do want to, a little bit about the budget, because I sat on the Board of Finance for a long time. I totally respect the comments that it looks like, not just Seymour, but like every town, city always looks like they're hiding money somewhere. At Board of Eds, people complain about it all the time. Here's the thing though, there's unions involved. So if we put money in the right line items before those contracts or union negotiations are done, we can't do that because then it kind of tips off the unions what we're thinking and what, or HR, I mean, this board is not involved in the negotiations. We might get some updates, but we're HR or anybody who's involved in the negotiations, there's something in mind. There's a give and take on both sides, and the other side's not going to tip off where they want to land and what they need to do and what their goal is, and the same thing on our side. So unfortunately, it's that yucky game of we've got to put it someplace else and then put it back in those budgets once those contracts are approved and things are fully negotiated. So it does look a little funny, and I hate every bit of it because sometimes that does happen after the budget's passed and it doesn't really give that accurate picture right in front of you, but there's a damn good reason for it, and that's the reason. So also, my last comment is I want to commend, well, not my last comment, almost. My last main comment is I want to commend the police, and just a warning out to citizens because I've done a lot of thinking. I almost had my car stolen in broad daylight at the Land Trust, which is a beautiful neighborhood. And I was able to thwart them myself. My husband was not around. I want to kill him because I was calling for him, but he thought I just, needed to know where he was. But anyway, they came so quickly and they apprehended the person immediately. But here's the thing. This happened in broad daylight. It's partly my fault. Car was running, door was open, and I got out to look at something just 5 feet away, but 5 feet away behind a shed, so they didn't see me. But I saw them when I stepped out 1 minute later, and they respectfully left. However, the person started walking toward me, and if I wasn't able to somehow aggressively scare the person by just calling for my husband and him, I think realizing I wasn't alone. I don't really know what the point of coming toward me was. Could have been nothing, could have been something big. So don't leave your cars running, lock your doors. There's a lot of car thefts going on. I've been through a number, as my neighbors have over the years, people robbing things out of cars. don't keep anything in there of value. Lock your doors. It doesn't matter where you are. And the police are doing a great job at really trying to catch people. The person that got caught, to my shock, because it didn't look to be this, was underage, okay? Which kind of shocked me. I don't know, I'm a little naive. But here's the thing, what I hear is happening is there's bigger, older people involved, and the police didn't tell me this, by the way. I could be very wrong. I'm getting this secondhand, but there's adults that are involved that are engaging youth that are willing to participate, because if they get caught, you know what, it's gonna get thrown out. It's gonna get thrown out of the court system because they're overwhelmed. So don't put yourself through that aggravation. I'll stop my speech. My last comment is I wish all the kids that are going back to school best of luck this year. Study hard, got your whole future in front of you, and I'm proud of everybody. And, you know, parents, I know you'll be supportive as possible of your kids. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, Holbrook Road, I absolutely echo everyone's comments about that, long overdue. My concern is that it does not turn into a raceway, but that will be dealt with, I'm sure, when and if that does happen. But it looks beautiful. It's a nice improvement to the town. In regards to Public Works, your comment, Mr. Stanek, yes, it's unfair that people make those comments on Facebook, but those are uncontrollable situations. Those guys do a hell of a job. As a chairman of the board, I'm in contact almost on a daily basis, so I'm aware of what's going on, and they have a lot on their plate, and they do a good job. And for folks to criticize them, whether they're paid at a regular rate or a premium rate, folks, get a life. You got better things to do. Chris and Kurt, I want to thank you for your reports tonight, and I look forward to future reports. Thank you.
No further comment. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Trish,
Second.
second by Bruno. All in favor? Aye.
Chris,